Right, so the Batman is out, and I liked it. I liked it a lot. I didn't love it, but I liked it. I like most of the things in this movie, but most of my enjoyment with the movie doesn't come much further than liking it. I like Robert Pattinson as Batman. Robert Pattinson as Bruce Wayne needs work, but as Batman, he's good. I liked the Riddler. I didn't love the Riddler. I liked the Riddler. I liked Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman. Didn't love Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman, but I liked Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman. I really liked Colin Farrell as Penguin. I really liked that. I really like the action sequences. I really like that one specific car chase. I think that's probably the best scene in the entire film. And I like the detective aspect of this movie. There is more detective work in this Batman movie than any other Batman movie. I just want to say right off the bat, that's my review of the Batman right there. That's my non-spoiler review of the Batman. I'm gonna get into spoilers now, because I can't talk about this movie without spoiling it. First off, it's basically 3 hours long. It's 2 hours 55 minutes. So if you've got a weak bladder, or if you're one of those people that before going to watch Avengers Endgame, you were like, oh shit, I'm going to wet myself in the cinema, then just be warned. This is a long one. It didn't feel long. It felt like a standard superhero movie length. It didn't feel like the Snyder Cut, and it didn't feel like, which in and of itself didn't feel like 4 hours, but it felt like 3. It didn't feel like anything was necessarily bloating or padding the movie. And at the end of it, when it finished, I was like, was that 3 hours? Really? 3 hours have gone, but it doesn't feel like it. So I guess that's a good thing about the movie, but the reason why I said that Robert Pattinson's Bruce Wayne needs work is because he doesn't act like Bruce Wayne. And the thing that I got from this movie is that this isn't an origin story for Batman. Batman has been active and been doing stuff in Gotham for 2 years at this point. So yes, he shouldn't be the absolute god that he is in future stories, or in future movies, or in the DCEU or whatever. But he should have a clue what he's doing. And when Robert Pattinson is Batman, when he's fully suited up and when he's acting like Batman, his portrayal of Batman is good. It's on par with Bale. It's on par with Keaton. I think it's kind of arguably better than Keaton, because he has the range of movement, and there's actually there's a really good dynamic between Batman and Jim Gordon in this movie, and it does lean into the detective aspect of Batman, but when the character is nicknamed the world's greatest detective, and when the movie tries to go with this kind of like detective movie aspect, it would have been cool, or it would have served the movie better if he actually figured it out. You know, he figures out the Riddler, and he figures out who the Riddler is, and he figures all this stuff out, but he doesn't figure out the Riddler's big scheme, which is basically to bomb Gotham's harbour and flood Gotham, which for itself, in the climax of the movie, it does provide a really cool visual, seeing Gotham City getting flooded, but also it would have been cooler to see Batman in this like race against time to find all of the bombs. But instead Batman doesn't know that this carpet tool is an actual carpet tool. He hasn't figured that out, and when he does figure it out and he does roll up the carpet, he finds where all the bombs are on this like map of Gotham City, but he's too late, and then all the bombs go off and Gotham City gets flooded, and everyone goes into the Gotham City football ground, and the climax of the movie takes place. Something that I thought was cool for the entire climax of the movie, it's not Batman versus Riddler. Riddler's in prison, Riddler's already been caught, but he's watching his plan unfold. And that kind of reminded me a lot of Batman Hush. There's a lot of Batman storylines that this movie apes off of. It's very year one, despite this being a Batman that's been Batman for 2 years. It's very Long Halloween, because in the Long Halloween, Batman is into his second year of being Batman, and he's fighting his first like foray into actual supervillains and actual criminals, and not just mob bosses. And this is his first big villain, right? The Riddler is his first like big villain, and his first like psychopath, really. Which kind of begs the question of that other character that's at the end that I'll touch on later. But this movie gave me like year one vibes, and I don't know if that's what they were going for, or if they were like, right, Batman's in his second year, but he's still not good. He's gonna get beaten up a lot. He's gonna get shot a lot. And the Batmobile has only just been built. And like, he's not gonna be that good of a detective yet, but he's gonna give it his fucking best. And you know, and there's this one scene that kind of shows, like, that kind of illustrates that this probably was meant to be Batman Year One, and that's when he jumps off the Gotham City Central, when he jumps off of the police station, and he puts on that like squirrel wingsuit and glides over the city, and then he opens the parachute under a bridge, and the parachute gets stuck, and he just tumbles onto the pavement. And I laughed at that scene. That's like the only time in this movie where I audibly like laughed, and I don't think we were meant to, but it just seemed like such a out of place moment, because throughout the rest of the movie, Batman is so serious, and it like there's so much like stoicism in Robert Pattinson's face, even when he is Bruce Wayne, when he's not supposed to be stoic. He's very like, you know, emo is the best word I can describe. I can describe his rendition of Bruce Wayne, which isn't something that I've seen before. You know, I've seen, like, Bruce Wayne with Alfred is a bit more depressed than when he's, like, in a social setting. And when he is Batman, he's, like, fully, like, that's when he's, like, emo goth. But throughout the whole movie, like, Bruce Wayne's, like, very, like, gelled hair over the eye, you know, very, just melodramatic. He doesn't really have many lines. I don't think Robert Pattinson has many lines at all in the entire movie. It's like 3 hours of just looking and staring at things. And it's effective when he's Batman, but when he's Bruce Wayne, it just seems like either this guy's got a massive anxiety disorder, which would be an interesting take on Batman, and would probably make sense, seeming as he's, like, in this big mansion with only his butler to be his only, like, social outlet. So that would be an interesting take, but they don't really go down that way. They're just like, yeah, he doesn't really get out much, and when he is out, this is what he's like. And it's like, that's not Bruce Wayne. That's not how I see Bruce Wayne anyway. He usually is like this Tony Stark-esque character, where he's always got a woman around his shoulder, he's always got a drink in his hand, and he's always, like, sociable, and he's like, it's like the perfect cover to make people see that he's not Batman, and there's no way that he can be Batman. So that's the biggest glaring issue that I have with this movie. It's that when Robert Pattinson is Bruce Wayne, in the very few scenes that he is, because most of this movie he's Batman, and I think that's a really good decision and a really strong decision, and they don't rehash the origin, they just kind of gloss over it. Thomas Wayne is a big part of the movie, but he's a big part of the movie not because he dies, but because of, like, some shady stuff that he did when he was alive. I really like Penguin. I really like Colin Farrell as Penguin. If I didn't know that was Colin Farrell, then I wouldn't have guessed, because he's the part of the movie that kind of is like, that kind of alleviates the tone a bit. He's like the only character where you get a semblance of comedy, or a semblance of, he doesn't really take Gotham City as seriously as anyone else, because he is this kind of maniac, and you get that from the car chase scene as well, and you get it from when he's in the club, and he's like, "What are you doing, wise guy?" And then there's just every scene with Colin Farrell's Penguin in, he just steals the show. He's leagues above everyone else, and he's the best part of the movie, in my opinion. Which leads me on to the Riddler. I like this rendition of the Riddler. I don't love it, and that's the biggest thing with me, is that my ideal Riddler would be David Tennant, you know, and go the Arkham route with it, because it's, that character model is David Tennant. You can't tell me that they didn't model that character model off of David Tennant. But this Riddler seemed very much, it was more Scarecrow. The vibes were more Scarecrow. The voice was definitely Scarecrow. It's just that he swapped out the fear gas for asking questions, and that kind of got me a bit off guard. And, you know, I don't dislike what they were going for. It's just the idea of turning the Riddler into this kind of cult leader that was like a streamer on the dark web that kind of like recorded all of his killings and recorded all these things, and you know, I don't understand what they were going for. It was kind of like this like darker it's like what Bruce Wayne could have turned into if he didn't have the money, essentially. And I respect what they were going for, what Matt Reeves was going for with Riddler in this movie, but it just didn't feel like the Riddler. It didn't feel like the Riddler. It felt like Scarecrow. It felt like, it felt like Scarecrow. The voice especially felt like Scarecrow. It feels like Paul Dano would have been a much better Scarecrow than Riddler. I feel like that might just be me. I might be the only one that thinks that, and the only thing that kind of makes him the Riddler is the question mark on the jacket, the question mark in the T, and like the green text when he's like on the laptop. That's the only thing that makes him the Riddler, and he asks questions, and he leaves the letters for Batman. Overall, I like this movie. Overall, I think the movie is good. I recommend going to see it. It's dark. It's much darker than any other Batman movie, and that's with The Dark Knight being a movie that exists. I don't think... And the biggest thing for me is that this movie doesn't break any new ground. It doesn't do anything with Batman that we haven't seen before. At least not that we've seen in not that we haven't seen in a movie anyway, because this is very much Batman Begins. Very much Batman Begins, just dialed up with how dark it is, and dialed up with how long it is as well. But yeah, the movie is basically Batman Begins again, but 2 years down the line, and he's still kind of not very good at being Batman, and he's not very good at balancing the life of Batman and Bruce Wayne. But overall, I think the movie's good. I think the movie's good, and I want to see more from this world, especially with where the movie ends and where the movie kind of says that it's going. And the one thing that I didn't like is the Joker tease at the end. I don't want to see the Joker again. Not for a while anyway. I just don't think doing the Joker now is like Call of Duty. You know that a new one's going to come out every year, and you know that the next one probably will be the same as the last, just with something tweaked. Like either something better, something worse, something that's going to, make the fans upset, something that's going to really make the fans happy. And, I just don't care, really. I just want to see... Batman has such a big, large rogues gallery. He's got so many villains. I just feel like you could pick any apple out of that pool, and you could have a really good movie out of it. Like, we've already seen the super realistic, super dark and gritty. You can still keep this tone, but you don't have to be like this has to be something that will happen in the real world. You can make this version of Batman fight Solomon Grundy. You can make this version of Batman fight Clayface, fight Man-Bat, fight Killer Croc. You know, there's so many different villains that you could do. Even if you want to keep this like super grounded, realistic take, then do Scarecrow, do Harvey Two-Face, do any, like, Mad Hatter. Mad Hatter has not appeared in anything outside of Gotham, so why not do Mad Hatter? Why not do, you know, you could do literally anyone but the Joker, because he's in so many things, and there have been so many standout stellar performances of people as the Joker that, you know, it's just a disservice to whoever's going to be playing the Joker next, and just I just don't want to see the Joker again for a while. It's like Doctor Doom in Fantastic Four movies, and even Green Goblin in Spider-Man movies. It's just, I want to see different villains. I want to see different characters. I want them to delve into the weird and wonderful that is Batman's Rogues Gallery. So yeah, that's my take on The Batman with Robert Pattinson by Matt Reeves. The movie is good. The movie is solid, and I like it. But I don't love it. Yeah, it's one of those movies that I know critics are going to say is a tour de force. I know critics are going to love this film. And I know that, like, if you liked The Joker, then you will probably get a lot from this, because it's a similar tone, it's just as dark, just as gritty, and I don't like The Joker, so going into this, I like it more because it does something different I haven't seen before. With, like, I know I just said that it doesn't break new ground, but I haven't seen a Batman Year One story told like this before. I haven't seen, like, the Long Halloween story. I haven't seen, like, a dark Riddler. I haven't seen Penguin done like this in a movie. I haven't seen Penguin done, like, very comic book accurately. Because this is more comic book accurate than whatever Danny DeVito was trying to do. But yeah, this is the darkest Batman movie. It's Jim Gordon is good, great, even. I like a lot of stuff in this movie. It's just some of the things don't. It's just I can't say that I love it, because the characterization of some characters, like Bruce Wayne and the Riddler, who are the two main characters. Actually, the main character is Batman, but Bruce Wayne is Batman, and just as important. But Bruce Wayne isn't in that many scenes. Also, Alfred. I've got to talk about Alfred for a bit. I was going to sign off, but I realised I haven't talked about Alfred. He's not in much of the movie, and in most of the movie he's in a hospital bed. But I like Andy Serkis. I don't love Andy Serkis as Alfred. I like Andy Serkis in most things, but as Alfred, he doesn't really sell that kind of idea. He doesn't sell this, like, British butler. I also find it kind of find it funny how Alfred does more of the detective work than Batman does. It kind of sells this idea that they're a team, and it sells this idea of, like, the start of the Bat family. I wonder if that's a thing that Matt Reeves will go into later on with like Robins and Batgirl and Batwoman and like eventually Batwing. I don't know if that's an idea that Matt Reeves really wants to go into. I think if we're going to see anything, we're going to see probably Robin, at most Robin. But I feel like people have like had their fill of a Batman and Robin movie, and they don't want to see it again. And for me, I feel like if you're going to do anything with this, anything at all, do Robin, and then make him Nightwing. Put Dick Grayson in your movie, and have him be Robin for one movie, and then at the end of that movie, he'll be like, fuck this, I'm done, I'm becoming Nightwing, and I'm moving to Bloodhaven. Because Bloodhaven exists in this universe. Selena Kyle's like, I'm going to move to Bloodhaven. So that would be a good way to tie into this, and it kind of does link in that maybe Dick Grayson's going to be a character in this. Who knows? Anyways, The Batman. It's a good movie. It's not great. Actually, it kind of is great. It is great. It's not fantastic. It's not amazing. It's not spectacular. It's not the best movie ever made, and it's not the best Batman movie ever made, but it is great. And I think that speaks for the quality of Batman movies, and that it speaks for the quality of Batman that's gone before, that, you know, that a movie can come out now and be a 3-hour-long epic that takes the character in a direction that, not that, like, people that, casual moviegoers, casual Batman fans, haven't seen a Batman like this before. I mean, I'm going to say that it doesn't break new ground because I've read The Long Halloween, I've read the Batman Year One, I've read Dark Knight Returns, I've read a lot of Batman stories, and I've seen this depiction of Batman before. I haven't seen, you know, the squirrel glider suit, because that's stupid. And I haven't seen, like, the parachute getting stuck on a bridge, because that's stupid. But anything else, I've seen before, but I realise that a lot of casual moviegoers and a lot of people that don't read comics as religiously as me will probably see this and be like, that's a Batman I haven't seen before. But they're still going to be like, I prefer Bale, or I prefer Keaton, because this is one movie as opposed to 3 or 2. It's definitely better than any of the Joel Schumacher movies, but I think it's on par with the DCEU when it comes to depictions of Batman. But even then, I feel like Ben Affleck did a better job at depicting Bruce Wayne. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. If you have seen The Batman, let me know in the comments below what you thought of it. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.